Hi everyone and welcome back to a new video. So it goes without saying that Games Workshop produces some amazing models and a lot of time, energy and money goes into producing them. Not only the ones we see actually day to day in all the previews and announcements, but also into updating some of the older models. And I thought it would be a cool idea if for this video I went through and chose 5 models that I felt could really do with an update. Not right now per se, but certainly in the not too distant future. Now, I've set a few ground rules for this video. First and foremost is that I won't be selecting any Space Marine models because, let's face it, the Space Marines get a lot of love currently, particularly through the Primaris range. And whilst there are a lot of Space Marine models that I would like to see get individual updates, I think it's not really fair to choose them at this time. So I'm going to push them to the side for a moment and try and share a bit of love around all the other factions. And to make sure that that love is spread evenly, I'll make sure that I only choose one model per faction. And with that, let's get stuck in. Now, the first model I'm going to choose is the Red Terror from the Tyrannid range, and I absolutely love the background behind this creature. It's this sort of prototype for the Ravener gene that was unleashed on an Imperial garrison, and it properly wiped it out, full Stormship Troopers style, and then snuck its way onto a spaceship and not only massacred all the people upon that ship, but also wrecked the world that it eventually landed / crashed on. And then it kind of went underground, and I haven't seen much lore about it since, and maybe I've missed it, but needless to say, the model has also been similarly stuck in the past. And I've actually seen some really brilliant hobby conversions using the Tyrannid range, and it shows one, just how adaptable the Tyrannid range is. You can really create some nasty creatures using some everyday Tyrannid models, but it also shows how great a possible Red Terror could look. And to be honest, actually, whilst I am sitting here thinking I'd love to see a new Red Terror, I think Games Workshop's really great at creating multi-set kits. You know, creatures that you can create one way or another way through one single bot set. And to be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing that. You know, a Red Terror model that can also be used to create another version of a Trigon, or maybe even another Ravener strain altogether. I just think the current model is just a bit dated. It doesn't really live up to purpose. It's not as terrifying as it used to be, particularly with model ranges being as detailed as they are now. There's a lot more scarier things than that Red Terror on the tabletop. And I just think also Games Workshop's a bit shy. I won't say ashamed, but it's at the bottom of the website listings when you go to the Tyrannid model range, and it's clear that Games Workshop doesn't really want to push it. So I'm thinking, given it's such a legendary creature and might even have a place in the current lore, if it's still alive that is, then why not give it a little bit of a refresh? So I think first and foremost, I'd love to see a new Red Terror model. And kind of sticking with the idea of size, the second model I'd love to see an update to is the Avatar of Khaine. It's probably on a lot of other people's lists as well, and it's clear that the Avatar is just a major faction character that deserves to have a presence on the battlefield. I remember back in the days of Dawn of War, when you summon the Avatar, your whole army got a massive boost, and it was a real game changer, and it kind of feels that way on the tabletop in respect to rules. But it's not really got that same presence. Everything else seems to have got bigger in scale. The Avatar hasn't. And I think also its size needs to reflect a lot of the artwork. There's a great piece where you've got the Eldari going up against the Thousand Suns, and the Avatar is the same size, if not bigger, than Magnus. And that's clearly not the case now with the models. So yeah, I think it certainly needs a size upgrade, but I also think it could do with a more dynamic pose. If you think about monstrous creatures like the Bloodthirsts or even Hive Tyrants, stuff that size, often's the case that those models seem like they're in the thick of battle. They're doing stuff, but this one seems like it's posing a bit too much, and I'd love to see something that indicates that it's either about to leap forward into battle or it's kind of in the midst of hacking its way through the hordes. And the Forge World Avatar is actually a good example. There's a great one where he's holding a spear and he's about to throw it. That sort of thing is the sort of thing I'd love to see. A bigger scale Avatar which generally looks like it's fighting rather than trying to pose for a selfie or something like that. But also, I wonder if the Avatar could just change altogether, because Eldari society, given all the recent events surrounding the Psychic Awakening and even before that, is changing altogether. And whether the Avatar is going to develop with that, because whilst the Avatar is based on Cain, and we know that the Eldari aren't the only ones who worship Cain in its various forms, I wonder if that could have a bit of an impact on how the Avatar looks. And so it could be that maybe in the not too distant future we see a brand new Avatar, and maybe that's why this model hasn't been updated. So actually, to be honest, I don't just want an update to this model, I'd love to see a whole new Avatar which looks completely different to anything we've ever seen before. My third choice is the Necron Destroyer Lord, and this comes as an update kit for a standard destroyer, and I find that a little bit odd, if I'm honest, because when you're dealing with HQ characters, I think you should at least get the full kit. Why you need to buy a Necron Destroyer and then spend another few pounds or dollars to update it to a Destroyer Lord when you can't just buy them together, I don't get that really. So for one, I'd love to see those two kits pulled together into a single kit, but generally speaking, I just think the Necron Destroyer Lord could be a little bit more ornate. I know Destroyers are naturally a lot colder than other Necrons, if that can even be said, but this one just feels a little bit too bland. When we think about Imhotep and Trazyn and other Necron characters, they're very ornate. They've got these cloaks and things like that, and they're kind of emblazoned with all this iconography. The Destroyer Lord does have a bit of that. They have bumped him up in terms of his aesthetic, but he doesn't really feel much more than just a kind of updated destroyer, and that doesn't sit right with me. I'd love to see a complete kit where he does have maybe a new body altogether, which is, you know, inscribed with runes, and we have an ornate chest piece that makes him stand out even more so. And actually, I'd love to see just the inclusion of the Void Blade and the Hyperphase Sword as options, because you don't get that in that update kit. That would be a good thing to see. And generally speaking, I think this model could just do with a little bit more finessing. It's a great kit, don't get me wrong, one that should be brought together with the standard destroyer, but I think if it just had a little bit more detail and a little bit more pizzazz, then that would make it so much more worthwhile, because at the end of the day, whilst it is a Destroyer Lord, it is still a Lord and a HQ choice for your Necron army, and it should feel that way. Now, the fourth model I'd love to see updated is the Chaos Hellbrute. Now, I absolutely love this model, don't get me wrong. I think it's Chaos incarnate, and I've really enjoyed seeing it in a lot of Chaos armies. But if I'm absolutely honest, it doesn't feel quite right as a one-size-fits-all alternative to Chaos Dreadnoughts. When we think about Space Marine chapters, some of them get some very unique Dreadnoughts. You've got the Space Wolves Venerable Dreadnought with those pelts and that axe. You've got the Blood Angels Furioso Dreadnought, which plays into their style of up-close combat. And with Chaos, we kind of used to have that with Chaos Dreadnoughts and their Forge World range, but those went with the rules, and now all Legions and Warbands get Hellbrutes. And they don't really seem to fit as well into a Thousand Sons or Iron Warriors army as much as they do a Khornate or Red Corsairs army, as much as Games Workshop tries to paint them up and make them feel that way. Still, it's an absolutely great kit, and I love the weapons options and the customizations, but it's this kind of, again, one-size-fits-all demonic feel that does make me miss the old Chaos Dreadnoughts a little, and it would be good to see those come back, or just have more customization options to make the Hellbrute seem, well, just a bit different and something that would fit more aesthetically into a wider selection of Chaos armies and legions. Now, for my fifth and final model, I'm actually going to pick two because they're very closely linked together. It's the Inquisitor with a combi weapon and an Inquisitor with an Inferno pistol and power sword. And the reason I've picked these two is because they kind of serve as an example for something I see across Games Workshop's range, and it does include some Space Marine characters, so I'm kind of bending my rules a little bit here, but I'll use these two as an example. Games Workshop has a mass of legacy models going back to the era of casting in metal, which naturally don't come with customizable kits, poses, weapons, and that is completely understandable. But I do think in time we need to move away from these single pose purpose kits, because in the current range of plastic, that's not where we are. And I think, you know, if you're going to buy an Inquisitor, what if you don't want a combi weapon? What if you don't want an Inferno pistol or power sword? I mean, in this sense, they do serve as great representative models, and I do love them. I have both of these models. I think they're fantastic in terms of detail and casting. But you see it in other models as well. If you want a chaplain with a jump pack, you only have a set number of options, and you can't really work outside of them. And so really, it's more of a suggestion across the range that hopefully we see fewer models like this, or actually, let me correct myself, we see models like this come together, get amalgamated into single kits, and just given a bit more adaptability. I appreciate that's a big ask and it will take some years for that, but if I was to ask for one thing out of all of these suggestions, it's this. Please do give us an opportunity, Games Workshop, to have Inquisitor kits or other models that, whilst they have been single pose legacy metal models before, do get a bit of revitalization in plastic and a bit more adaptability as a result, because I think particularly with Inquisitors, as Talons of the Emperor becomes more of a thing, hopefully we see more Inquisitors as well, it'd be nice to have just a bit more variety. And whilst we could easily replace both of these with a new Inquisitor model, which is more than likely, it would just be great to not have this either or option and a lot of duplication, I guess, across the Games Workshop site, which could probably confuse as much as it does make it interesting to collect. So those are my 5 suggestions. By no means are they the best ones, they're just my personal ones, but I'm keen to hear your thoughts. What do you think about these 5? And please do suggest in the comments below what model or models you would like to see updated. There's no right or wrong answers here, and I appreciate Games Workshop is very, very busy right now, so it's not really a demand per se, but just something you'd like to see updated in the not too distant future. Let me know in the comments below, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like the video and subscribe if you feel inclined, and I do hope all is well with you in these current times, and I also hope that you'll join me for the next video in the not too distant future either. But until then, please take care.